exciting time for curriculum innovation in Australia, and especially so for Western Australia, because it'll be the first time that we have a P-10 curriculum in 6 languages, and this curriculum will complement what we have in senior secondary. Well, it's important to say that the work we are doing has been formed by, firstly, in the midst of ACARA doing their development of curriculum, the languages, the School Curriculum and Standards Authority, their board, decided that they would do a review of languages in Western Australia, and that's called the State of Play. It's on our website if you're interested in reading about it. But what the board was looking for was which languages were actually being taught in Western Australia, where were they being taught, to whom were they being taught, what were those programs like, and how much time was being allocated to those programs. And some of you would have been part of those interviews that took place at schools. Then alongside that, in 2015, the authority ran a forum where we invited over 100 teachers, then system sector representatives, professional associations, and anyone who had any inkling to what was happening with languages to come along and discuss with us what was best practice, what was their vision for languages in Western Australia. So with the two of those, the forum and the review, the feedback then helped the board come up with a policy position for P-10 languages in Western Australia and how they would fit into the curriculum and assessment outline that has been developed for WA. We're phase 3. We're at the end of it, but we're actually benefiting from everything that has gone before us. Lots of little errors are made along the way. The same won't be said about languages. We've had time to sit back, watch how everyone else has put together their curriculum, come up with the best practice from teachers talking to us about what they think should be happening in the classroom, match that alongside with the Australian curriculum, and we've developed a West Australian curriculum that I'm sure most of you will be very happy to receive very soon. Currently, we're working on developing 6 syllabuses for second language learners. For French, German, for Chinese, for Indonesian, for Italian, and for Japanese. These are broadly consistent with what is in the Australian curriculum, but they have been adapted to make them more suitable for WA teachers and for students. At the beginning of semester 2, the syllabuses will be online for all teachers and schools to access. So not too much longer to wait. Apart from the syllabuses, this year we'll be developing achievement standards. So one major difference from the Australian curriculum with the West Australian curriculum will be that we will also support schools with how to assess. That hasn't been provided through the Australian curriculum. That is work for the jurisdictions to do. The pre-primary to Year 10 syllabuses that are being developed, they'll give teachers the content that is prescribed as well as the achievement standards. And this is what schools will use to plan the teaching and the learning, as well as assessing student progress and reporting to parents. Yesterday you became much more familiar with the Australian curriculum. Last year when I joined you, it was the Ready, Set, Go. This time it was Ready, Set, Plan. And so you have become much more familiar with what the Australian curriculum looks like. The West Australian curriculum will follow a very, very similar structure. There are 2 extra elements that we are including with the West Australian curriculum, and that is the ways of teaching and the ways of assessing. To support teachers with best practice, what are the better ways of assessing students? You already would have a suitcase full of ideas and strategies that you use to assess students. There may be some that you haven't become familiar with, or some that are new to you, and that's where the ways of assessing will support you. Similarly with the ways of teaching, and Kylie was very helpful in giving you some ideas about ICT, inquiry learning, and CLIL. They'll all form part of ways of teaching. Most of the questions that I get are about implementation timelines. When is it all happening? And that position paper has been sent out to schools. So in 2018, it'll be mandatory for all schools to offer a Year 3 languages program, at least one language in all schools. Systems and sectors have been aware of this requirement since 2014. So it's not new to the systems and sectors. They've been aware of it, and they've been working behind the scenes to ensure that all schools will have a teacher in the Year 3 classroom to teach Year 3s and report at the end of 2018. This will mean that by 2018, every single learning area will be implemented in schools in WA. So we start with Year 3 in 2018. By 2023, all students up to the Year 8 will be involved in learning a language. Year 9 and 10, like most of the other learning areas, will be an optional year, and this will be the year where students will specialise to prepare themselves for Year 11 and 12 for senior secondary years. So what constitutes a language program? And this is again where a lot of questions come. So the authority will provide 6 sets of syllabuses in the languages that I have already mentioned. The study of an Aboriginal language is appropriate. Anyone who has recently migrated from a country where English is not the first language, they can substitute English as a second language or further studies in English for their study of the language until they are proficient enough to be able to join a language class. The study of Auslan is appropriate, and so is any other language that has a curriculum that has been developed by a CARA. So Spanish, Modern Greek, those languages, those curriculums will also be accepted. If there is another language that has not been developed by a CARA and schools have been offering that language, they can always contact the authority and ask for special permission to continue to offer that language. Time allocation. How many hours do you have to teach the new Western Australian curriculum? I can't tell you because the paper is before the board at the moment, but it is very, can I say, it will be very pleasing to most of you to see what the hours will be. And the actual hours will not be only for languages, it will be for every learning area. So schools will be informed how many hours they should minimum put aside for English, maths, history, etc. Not just for languages. This information will be coming out to schools in semester 2. Not too much longer to wait. Reporting. That happens in 2018 for the first time for Year 3 students, and information on reporting will come out to schools next year. So what resources are we developing for teachers and schools at the authority? Well, the first thing is the P to 10 year level syllabuses. So we won't be seeing the band that we have with the Australian curriculum. For Year 3 teachers, for example, in semester 2 this year, they can go onto the authority's website and they can download every year level syllabus for their students, from maths right through to Italian. So they can have a booklet that has the year level syllabuses that they will need to teach that year. There will also be the scope and sequences, so for teachers who teach across a number of year levels, they can see the progression from P right through to year 10. We will also... So we will have two documents. One is a scope and sequence that shows progression from P right through to 10, and then we'll have individual year syllabuses. So teachers will use whatever is more comfortable for them to use, but it's the same information in both. The other support materials that we'll have will be based on judging standards, and that is the project that we're working on now, and there's some people in the room here who are working with us to trial assessments tasks that have been developed to sit alongside the West Australian curriculum. So there are a number of you who next term and in term 3 will be trialling and giving us samples of student work. Now those samples of student work will help not only with the achievement standards, but will also help with work samples that when teachers come to give in reports at the end of semester, at the end of the year, they can look at the samples for year 4, for example, and say, this is what writing should look like in year 4, or this is what speaking should look like in year 7, and come to terms with a standard that will help them to write their reports. So those of you who teach in senior secondary will already be familiar with the type of samples that we have on the website to support teachers when it comes to assessment. Apart from the annotated student work samples, also there will be snapshots and pointers, and that will become more familiar to your language once we get into looking at this at the West Australian curriculum and what that involves. So lastly, what do you do from now on? So until 2018, you keep doing what you're doing. Make sure that you attend sessions like today, these workshops, and also sessions like yesterday when you become more familiar with the curriculum. But pretty soon in semester 2, I'm sure professional associations like WANTI, your system and sectors will start to put in place workshops for professional learning where you'll come to terms with what is actually in the West Australian curriculum and how you can use that to plan, to program for assessment when we strike 2018 pretty soon. So you continue to use the curriculum framework. That is on our website. You can access that. You become familiar with the language syllabuses once they are online in semester 2. You become familiar with all the resources that the authority will start to put on their website. Make sure that you register to receive the K to 10 circular. It's an e-circular that comes out once a month. That gives you updates on what's happening with the authority and the development of the P to 10 curriculum. Also, continue to support the teachers in your network. It's only through meetings like today and professional learning workshops that we all share our ideas and that we all come to a better understanding of what this innovation will look like in our classrooms.